You know, I'm not gonna lie, Polt's an awesome player, but especially an awesome dude. And I'm Day 9 back with Not Husky. It's Kevin Knocke! Oh, Kevin, God! Welcome, it's a pleasure to have you.
Yes, a pleasure to be here very much so. I just love, I felt like I should have ended that with, dude, bacon and eggs.
Bacon and eggs, no doubt. I'm so glad you brought that back around.
No problem, I got your back.
Now, I understand that you have an extra special Polt story that you were telling me in break.
Yes. Over the weekend, we were at South by Southwest Gaming with the IGN Pro League. We did a show match between Polt and Hyun. Yeah. And Hyun was just like, I really want Texas barbecue. So we're like, okay, we'll go out and get him Texas barbecue. Now, I'm about 12 times the size of Hyun. And he put me to shame. He just straight up ordered a pound of brisket and demolished it. I'm very impressed. A pound.
That's a substantial amount of food.
Yes.
And of course, in America, we measure by weight in terms of the food. You don't order an entree. It's not like I'd like a filet mignon. Like I would like just like a couple pounds of just meat and a pile, and you don't need any utensils. It's fine.
No, shovel usually works fine.
Yeah. Now, of course, Kevin, I got the chance to bring you up here because you, of course, came down, and I want to talk a little bit about who you are. I know you're caster at the IGN Pro League, and of course, before then, you just sort of casted recreationally for fun. Like, how did you actually get into the whole scene?
Okay, so my history with StarCraft 2 started actually after the beta. I was only casually part of the beta. I picked up the game at release, started playing a lot, eventually migrated over to TeamLiquid and r/StarCraft, started watching more streams than I was playing. I had 3 years of radio experience in college, and I thought, well, hey, I'll give broadcasting a shot.
Wait, what sort of radio did you do in college?
We did a free-format student-run radio station, 89.7 FM, came at Rowlett, where I was the voice of, like, South Central Missouri emergency broadcast system and random stuff like that.
So that's where you honed the ability to be competitive about esports.
Yes, clearly, yeah. So we hosted a bunch of sports talk shows and things like that. So that's where the background came from. I started broadcasting out of my mom's basement while I was a graduate student with my wife yelling from the other room to shut up at night. And I just kept broadcasting like 40 hours a week. I'd be on every night, and I couldn't get enough of it.
Wow.
Eventually, viewers grew from 5 to 10 to 50 to 100 to 1,000, and I thought I'd give this a real shot. I funded my own trip down to MLG Dallas back in 2011, sat smack dab next to my now boss, David Ting, in the front row. Commentary was cut off because Zaka Nidra could hear things. This was before ISO booths and such, and I personally commentated a few matches to David Ting and gave me a job 5 days later.
That's so awesome. And, you know, it's kind of funny because it's so easy to like hear that story and to think, oh, there was somehow like luck involved. But you know, it's kind of it's like if you are trying to live off popcorn, right? If you try to pop it one kernel at a time, you're going to starve to death. But if you throw a whole bunch of kernels in, you'll sort of see what happens. You know, if, like the more casting you were doing, the more trips you did to those sort of esports events, the more opportunities you gave yourself. And all it took was for one to take off. And
absolutely. No, I mean, for about 6 months, I was broadcasting 40 hours a week on top of being a full-time graduate student, a half-time graduate research assistant. I was married. I was editing. Yeah,
full-time
exactly. Sometimes. But then I was watching. Then I was, and I was also cutting my own VODs and stuff like that. So it was a one-man operation. But I wouldn't change anything I did.
And how's the life now, the esports life?
I love it. I get real dollars now, not just intangible esports dollars, which trade at like 1 trillion to 1 right now.
And you know, I especially wanted to bring you up here because I just think it's a great example of how to just get involved and the way that works, but also because your voice has this quality that I would call the sauce, right? Right, you're not
appreciate it.
You don't just talk. You don't say, "Hey guys, welcome." You're like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And it's just it's thrilling.
Thank you.
And we're now going to read some StarCraft poems.
That's correct.
That's right. Yes. There's that fan of poetry out in the crowd. Wow, things that rhyme. Esport. Now, the fact is that TeamLiquid, of course, one of the wonderful partners of this event, helped organize some of the community contests. A StarCraft Heart of the Swarm poem was one of the competitions. So I would like to read this very first poem. It is labeled as Poem 3. Akuma no Ritomi, death from above, parenthesis, a zergling tale. A little larva started to brew, and from it, a tiny zergling grew. Out of the egg into a new place, how good it was to have such space. A strange sound over his head, a weird sensation started to spread. Over the hatchery there he see, flying up high, an enemy banshee. What choice Did he had other than flee? Smart he was, so burrow he did, but the enemy command center spots where he hid. The missiles came down from the sky, hitting the poor Ling as he started to cry. Dead he was, and what a gruesome end. Onto the creep, that was his stand. Go on with the game, even though that stings, because who cares about those poor Lings?
My heart is broken.
You know, that might be a story of tragedy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be honest. If you're in the game, Zerglings just spawned, and the Banshee shoots the Zergling, you think, why is this idiot not killing my drones? What a relief. Oh, here. And then you, like, move more Zerglings. You're like, hey, way to 1A the Banshee in my mineral line, fool.
Oh, man. That was touching. No, that was all heartbreak for me. I don't think I'm going to be able to get over that. As I go into Poem 2.
Poem 2. Who's the author of
this
Poem numeral 2?
Smidge. The Valley, parentheses, poem. Once upon an entombed valley, while we wandered to our rally, over often quaint and curious volumes of prevailing creep. While we sprinted, sometimes sprawling, suddenly there came a calling, as of something sickly screeching, screeching in the chasm's deep. 'Tis some Ursadak, I whispered, screeching into the chasm's deep. Only this, now scanner sweep. As the tumors all exposed, were each then dispatched unopposed. Again the screeching noise arose so loudly that it made me leap, so that now, to still the stimming of my heart, I stood repeating, 'Tis some carrick surely screeching loudly in the chasm's deep. Some large carrick surely screeching loudly in the chasm's deep. Only this, some food to reap. Now inside the chasm scouting, long I stood there, wondering, doubting. 12 Marines behind me shouting, check around that steep. Seeing that it was deserted, nothing's here, I soon asserted. In reply, someone then blurted, what about that awful shriek? Everywhere we looked, but we could not explain that awful shriek. Fine, I said, we'll scanner sweep. Suddenly there came a burst, and from the ground large eggs dispersed. Before I could so much as curse, the plagues within them ceased to sleep. Smidge, The Valley, parentheses poem. Beautiful. Stunning,
Touching.
really.
Yeah. You know, it actually reminds me of when I was first playing StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty when it was released. I didn't know any of the new units. I didn't know that things could move while burrowed because I played Brood War, and that would be unfair.
Right.
So when I actually when there were infestors moving up into my base, I was like, something's wrong with my graphics? I'm getting these dark spots moving around on my monitor. What's going on? And I was getting, and I remember in the game I was like changing some settings, and then they just unburrowed, and I actually screamed and like leapt away from my computer. It was like worse than when I played Amnesia, right? I was just like, because not only did something scary happen, but then something scary followed it up as they just were infested Terran eggs sort of.
And I've watched you play Amnesia. I have this beautiful visual that's running through my head right now too. So.
Well, excellent.
Yes.
And next time I'll remember to scanner sweep.
Yes.
So, of course, I'd just like to give another round of applause to all the wonderful folks from the TeamLiquid community who helps contribute those fantastic poems. Of course, the illustrious Kevin Knocke for providing that
thank you very
40 hours a week professional radio broadcasting sauce. That reading.
That was I've never read this before. I am impressed at the quality of poetry that we get from the StarCraft community. Keep it up, guys.
I gave you the harder poem.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't trust myself to be able to nail it. You nailed it. Boom. Now, before we end up heading into the next segment, I have to ask, Kevin, what is the thing that you are most excited about for Heart of the Swarm?
The thing that I'm most excited about is all the features that are driven towards getting the community more involved, it becoming a more social game, and making it just an experience that you want to log on and just have a fun with a bunch of your buddies. And I think that's something that I'm super excited about.
Guys, huge shout out once again to Kevin Knocke coming on up. When we return, we're going to be having an interview with one of the amazing voice actors from StarCraft 2. So because I know you don't believe in spoilers, stay tuned to find out who.